My presentation is about Elie Wiesel living day by day. Elie Wiesel is one of the most famous Holocaust survivors known to us. Elie Wiesel was born and raised until the age of 15 in Sighet, Romania, where he lived with his mother, father, his two older sisters, and his younger sister Zipporah. At the age of 15, his whole family was deported to Auschwitz concentration camp. Elie Wiesel can be remembered by what he endured inside Auschwitz concentration camp, his duration after the war, and his new start in America. One of the first major ways Elie Wiesel is remembered is his experience inside Auschwitz concentration camp. Professor Wiesel says, "I had a very strange idea when I arrived to Auschwitz. I was thinking that maybe it's the end of history, and I thought maybe it's the end of Jewish history, then I thought maybe it's the end of times." Coming to Auschwitz was the beginning of Elie's worst nightmare. In the first couple minutes, he was separated from his grandmother, mother, and his sisters. The only way he could stay alive with his father was telling the Nazis he was an 18-year-old farmer and in good condition, when he was only 15 years old.
It's the end of history. Maybe it's the end of history. And I said, maybe it's the end of Jewish history. And then I thought maybe it means the end of times.
Oh. So this is about where you arrived, right?
You arrived here, that was a good idea.
Where the platform was. And what did you think or imagine?
I said, you saw the extraordinary horror of people with machine guns starting to shout. Literally, a minute later, say, for example, families together, then men alone, didn't understand to say goodbye to each other.
The systematic process of determining who would live and who would die was known as selection. The maniacal Dr. Mengele and SS officers briefly sized up each new arrival. Those deemed capable of hard labor, like 15-year-old Elie and his father, went into the camp. The others were sent immediately and unknowingly down the path to the gas chambers.
Men to the left, women to the right, 8 words spoken quietly, indifferently, without emotion. 8 simple, short words. Yet, that was the moment I left my mother. I didn't know that this was the moment in time and the place where I was leaving my mother and Zipporah forever.
Where were you separated from your little sister and your mother?
Yeah. My sister.
Elie Wiesel quotes in one of his books, "Never shall I forget the night, the first night in camp, which has turned my life into one long night, 7 times cursed and 7 times sealed. Never shall I forget these things, even if I am condemned to live as long as God himself. Never." While in Auschwitz, Elie's knees were dangerously swelling up and he had to be operated on. And a couple of days after the operation, Auschwitz prisoners were sent on a 10-day death march to Buna, another campsite inside Auschwitz, where sadly his dad perished due to starvation, exhaustion, and dysentery. Over here is where Elie and his father stayed. Around here is where Buna was, where they had to do the 10-day death march. Another reason why Elie Wiesel will be remembered is what he did after the war and the Holocaust. After the war, the teenage Wiesel found asylum in France, where he learned for the first time that his 2 older sisters had survived the war. Wiesel mastered the French language and studied philosophy at the Sorbonne. Elie Wiesel, achievements.org. When in France, Wiesel became a choir and Hebrew instructor, but soon after he became a professional journalist writing for both France and Israel. Elie Wiesel quotes in an interview with Oprah Winfrey, "I have written over 47 books, but I feel that I haven't begun. I haven't begun." Wiesel has written over 40 books, 40 to 50 books, with Night being the most famous. Night talks about what Elie and his father experienced until the end of World War I. Some of the topics he talks about are Moshi and Beetle, the Sighet ghettos, Auschwitz concentration camp, the death march, and Buchenwald liberation.
See it, my father would often tell me. He wanted to drive the idea of studying Kabbalah from my mind. In vain. I succeeded on my own in finding a master for myself in the person of Moshe the Beetle. He had watched me one day as I prayed at dusk. "Why do you cry when you pray?" he asked, as though he knew me well. "I don't know," I answered, troubled. I had never asked myself that question. I cried because something inside me felt the need to cry.
Lastly, Elie will be remembered by his work and contributions he had in the United States. Elie came to America reporting for the United Nations. Wiesel was struck by a taxicab. His injuries confined him to a wheelchair for almost a year. Unable to renew his French document, which allowed him to travel as a stateless person. Achievements.org. Since Wiesel could not travel to France, he decided to register for United States citizenship. In the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum website, it states, Wiesel's efforts to defend human rights and peace throughout the world have earned him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the United States Congressional Gold Medal, and the Medal of Liberty Award, the rank Grand Croix in the French Legion of Honor, and in 1986 the Nobel Peace Prize. He has received more than 100 honorary degrees from institutions of higher learning. After receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, Elie and his wife Marion established the Elie Wiesel Foundation of Humanity. Since 1976, he's been the Andrew W. Mellon Professor in the Humanities at Boston University, where he is also known as a University Professor. Elie Wiesel can be remembered by what he endured inside Auschwitz concentration camp, his duration after the war, and his new start in America. Elie Wiesel quotes in an Oprah Winfrey interview, "The death of one child makes no sense. The death of millions, what sense does that make?" Dysentery, infection of the intestines resulting in severe diarrhea with the presence of blood and mucus in the feces. We're excited.